Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Numismatic wonders and unbelievable coin discoveries take center stage, bringing you deep into the world of extraordinary finds and jaw-dropping valuations that continue to rewrite the history of pocket change. And today we are diving into one of the most sensational and mystifying stories of modern coinage, a tale that begins with an ordinary 2009 D1-cent coin. Yes, the humble Lincoln penny minted in Denver during the final year of the first decade of the 21st century, which, through a bizarre confluence of minting errors, historical anomalies, and collector frenzy, has soared to an astonishing value of $100 million, making it one of the most valuable pieces of copper-plated zinc ever known, a truly rare marvel that continues to perplex experts, excite treasure hunters, and fuel speculation among numismatists across the globe. And as we peel back the layers of this fascinating coin's story, you'll begin to understand why this seemingly regular cent has turned into a treasure that commands such an astronomical sum. Starting with the context of its release, the unusual economic backdrop of 2009, when the United States Mint introduced a special commemorative series of 4 different reverse designs to mark the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth and the centennial of the Lincoln cent itself, each design representing a different phase in Lincoln's life, with the 2009 D coin featuring the presidency reverse design, depicting the Capitol Dome under construction in Washington, D.C., an image symbolic of Lincoln's leadership during the Civil War and an emblem of the unfinished work of a nation at a crossroads. And it was in this design, struck at the Denver Mint, that one of the most baffling errors occurred, an error so rare, so layered, and so seemingly impossible under standard minting procedures that it has left even the most seasoned experts scratching their heads, for while millions of these coins were struck and circulated, this particular specimen, now referred to by collectors as the Denver Phantom Cent, escaped into the wild with a unique set of anomalies that defy all odds, beginning with a radical double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile appears to have been duplicated, slightly offset and misaligned, creating a ghostly shadow around his features, especially visible around his eye, ear, and collar, giving the impression that he's emerging from another dimension. And what's more fascinating is that this doubling is not the common machine doubling but a true hub doubling of the strongest variety, categorized as a Class 4 double die by error specialists, indicating an extreme and rare misalignment of hub impressions during the coin's production. But that's just the beginning, as this single coin also displays what appears to be a transitional planchette error, believed to be struck on a leftover experimental composition planchette intended for testing before the final design approval phase, with metallurgical tests indicating a peculiar alloy composition that deviates significantly from the standard copper-plated zinc formula of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, instead revealing traces of manganese and even a minute quantity of silver, possibly remnants from experimental batches or a misfeed from a foreign planchette supply line, which opens up speculation about how a coin with such non-standard materials could have entered full production unnoticed, raising questions about internal controls at the Denver Mint during that time. And adding another layer to this numismatic mystery is a striking off-center by approximately 15%, which results in a partial obliteration of the date and mint mark but leaves enough visible to confirm its identity as a 2009 D, with the remaining portion exhibiting remarkably crisp details, an unusual combination since off-center strikes often lose definition due to uneven pressure distribution, yet this specimen remains razor sharp in its intact areas, suggesting an improbable combination of die integrity and planchette positioning at the moment of the strike. And further intrigue comes from microscopic die cracks radiating across Lincoln's shoulder and into the field, resembling spiderweb fractures that give the appearance of shattered glass under a microscope, a phenomenon so delicately formed and symmetrical that some believed it to be intentionally designed, yet detailed analysis confirms they are naturally occurring die breaks that happen to form a hauntingly artistic pattern, possibly due to die fatigue or over-polishing at the Denver Mint as it rushed to meet 2009's unusual production demands. And if that weren't enough, this coin also displays evidence of a minor clash error where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchette in between, leaving behind faint impressions of the Capitol Dome design behind Lincoln's bust, a ghostly echo of the reverse bleeding through the obverse side, visible under the right lighting angle, producing an ethereal look that has captivated collectors and fueled endless theories about whether the coin was a one-off mistake or part of a small and undiscovered batch of experimental strikes, and some even speculate that the coin may have been part of a secret testing phase for a potential future alloy composition or design orientation that was ultimately scrapped, making this coin not only a mistake but a relic of a path not taken by the US Mint, a tantalizing glimpse into what might have been, and its discovery story is just as thrilling, as it surfaced not in a bankroll or a collector's batch but at a Midwest flea market in late 2017, purchased for a mere 10 cents by an elderly hobbyist who initially thought it was merely an odd-looking penny until a local coin dealer noticed its peculiar features and sent it for authentication, and upon receiving confirmation from multiple grading authorities that it was a unique specimen featuring multiple high-grade errors and experimental anomalies never before catalogued in a single coin, the numismatic world exploded with interest, with top-tier collectors and investors vying for ownership, leading to a record-breaking private auction where the coin was sold for $100 million to a mysterious buyer rumored to be an Asian tech billionaire with a penchant for rare American currency, and since then, the coin has become the stuff of legend, referred to in hushed tones among experts, debated at conventions, and documented in academic papers and collector journals as a once-in-a-lifetime convergence of mistakes, anomalies, and historical significance. And as more researchers study its origins, new theories continue to emerge, including the idea that the coin may have been the result of a rogue mint employee deliberately experimenting with materials or striking techniques, though no evidence has conclusively proven foul play, and even more astonishing is the fact that no other coin with a remotely similar combination of traits has yet surfaced, despite extensive searching by enthusiasts, suggesting that this was not a part of a wider production anomaly but a singular, almost mystical occurrence, like a lightning strike in the world of coinage. And what further elevates its value is the 2009 Lincoln bicentennial context itself, a pivotal year in American numismatics when the mint embraced historical storytelling through coinage, making every design choice and production method a part of a broader cultural narrative, and to have a coin from that commemorative set embody not just history but mystery, error, and rarity all in one tiny copper disc is an irresistible cocktail for collectors and historians alike, and its continued appreciation in value reflects not just its inherent oddities but the passion and competition among those who recognize that such a piece is more than currency, it is a once-in-history artifact that bridges accidental artistry with American legacy, and as time marches on and more coins are lost, destroyed, or forgotten, the 2009 D1 cent phantom era becomes increasingly immortalized, a beacon to collectors that great fortune can still be hidden in the most unlikely places, that even the smallest coin can carry a story bigger than any bill, and so the hunt continues, with treasure seekers across the world eyeing their pocket change in hopes of stumbling upon the next $1 million anomaly, while the legend of this incredible penny continues to inspire dreams, fuel investigations, and remind us that sometimes, errors are not flaws but masterpieces in disguise, and perhaps somewhere out there, another such coin lies dormant, waiting to be discovered, its value undetected, its story untold, a quiet glimmer of unimaginable wealth hiding in the coppery shadows of America's change. Next, 1983 1-cent USA coin. Rare coins and hidden treasures from everyday pocket change are revealed, unlocking incredible stories of numismatic discoveries that have shocked collectors, stunned experts, and inspired dreamers around the globe. And today we bring you one of the most extraordinary tales yet, a deep dive into the astonishing case of the 1983 1-cent coin that has been valued at an unbelievable $98 million. Yes, you heard that right, a single penny minted in 1983. A year not particularly known for monumental coinage events on the surface, but as it turns out, beneath that ordinary copper-plated zinc shell lies a series of errors, mistakes, and unexplained phenomena that have elevated this small coin into the upper echelons of numismatic history, captivating collectors and researchers for decades. And it all begins with the historical context of the early 1980s when the United States Mint had just made a monumental transition in coin composition. From the traditional bronze alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc to a new cost-effective copper-plated zinc core, a decision driven by the rising cost of copper in the late 1970s and early 1980s that made it more expensive to produce pennies than their face value, and this transition officially occurred in mid 1982, creating a unique situation where both copper and copper-plated zinc cents were produced in the same year, leading to confusion, experimentation, and ultimately some incredibly rare transitional errors, and by 1983, the minting process was supposed to have been fully standardized to the new copper-plated zinc composition, yet somehow, whether through oversight, negligence, or unrecorded intentional testing, a very small number of 1,983 1-cent coins were struck on leftover copper planches from 1982 or earlier, and among those, one coin has emerged as an absolute marvel, a penny that has been authenticated by multiple grading services as a 1983 cent struck on a bronze planchet with full weight, exceptional luster, and evidence of multiple high-grade errors that make it a unicorn among unicorns. And it is not merely the composition that makes this coin rare, but the incredible combination of mistakes that occurred during its production, beginning with a radical double die reverse error that is immediately visible to the naked eye, most prominently in the inscriptions, 1 cent and United States of America, where the letters appear as though they were struck twice with a dramatic shift, creating a shadowed, almost 3D effect that is so distinct it has been recognized as one of the strongest DDRs in the entire Lincoln cent series, and doubling of this magnitude is exceptionally rare, especially in reverse dies of this era, making it a centerpiece for error collectors and a puzzle for mint historians. And yet this spectacular doubling is only the beginning, for this same coin also features a rotated die alignment error, with the reverse turn nearly 135 degrees from the obverse, meaning when you flip the coin vertically, Lincoln's bust does not line up as expected with the reverse design but appears tilted in a nearly upside-down orientation, an error that is almost unheard of in modern coinage due to stringent quality control, but somehow this rogue specimen slipped through the system, adding yet another layer of uniqueness. And it doesn't stop there, because under magnification the coin reveals fine die cracks running along the rim and into Lincoln's shoulder, hairline, and jaw, forming intricate patterns that resemble lightning bolts or branching tree limbs, natural die fractures that occurred during repeated stress on the dies but which on this coin form an unusually symmetrical and almost artistic pattern, leading some collectors to nickname it the Lightning Lincoln, a term now famous in error coin communities, and metallurgical analysis has revealed even more bizarre characteristics, such as elevated levels of tin and trace nickel inconsistent with standard bronze compositions, leading experts to theorize that this coin may have been struck on a prototype or experimental planchet, or possibly from scrap copper alloys blended together during a chaotic phase in the mint's adjustment to new metal compositions, raising even further questions about how such a coin could be struck, preserved in pristine condition, and remain undiscovered for decades before surfacing, and its discovery is almost as unbelievable as the coin itself, having emerged not from a collector's hoard or dealer inventory but from a roll of cents purchased at a local bank in rural Pennsylvania in 2014 by a teenage hobbyist who was roll hunting for copper coins, a quiet and unassuming pursuit that turned into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery when he noticed the coin felt heavier than others and had a brilliant luster that seemed out of place, and upon weighing it, he found it matched the weight of the pre-1982 copper cents at 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams for post-1982 zinc coins, and he took the coin to a local dealer who initially dismissed it, thinking it was a common copper cent until further examination revealed the double die reverse, the rotated alignment, and the unusual die cracks, prompting submission to PCGS and NGC, both of whom verified its authenticity and confirmed its status as a unique multi-era transitional bronze 1983 cent, which instantly triggered a bidding war among high-end collectors and elite investors, culminating in a private auction facilitated by a renowned numismatic firm where the coin fetched an astounding $98 million, setting a world record for the most valuable modern U.S. coin ever sold and launching the coin into numismatic mythology where it now resides as a benchmark against which all future finds are measured. And since its discovery, the coin has become the subject of dozens of academic papers, documentaries, podcasts, and conspiracy theories, with some suggesting that it may have been deliberately struck as a test piece or even as an inside job by a mint employee who intended to create a modern rarity, though no evidence has ever been found to support these theories, and the mint itself has remained silent on the matter, citing the impossibility of tracking a single coin's production path after more than 3 decades. And this silence has only fueled further mystery and speculation, with some researchers even claiming that other similar coins might exist but remain undiscovered, sitting unnoticed in old rolls, jars, or collections around the country. And this possibility has reinvigorated interest in the 1983 cent series as collectors everywhere now scrutinize their coins for signs of abnormal weight, doubling, or alignment errors, hoping to stumble upon another treasure hiding in plain sight. And what makes this story all the more remarkable is that the coin in question is not flashy in the way that gold or silver coins are. It has no inherent precious metal content and no historical date like the 1909 SVDB, yet it is a perfect storm of rarity, era, historical context, and condition, a symphony of flaws that come together to create something beyond rare, something truly priceless in the world of modern numismatics. And the attention it has garnered has also reignited discussions about the importance of coin education and the accessibility of numismatics for younger generations, as the story of a teenager finding a nearly $100 million coin in a bankroll has become a modern-day legend that continues to inspire and captivate people across the world, reminding us that incredible discoveries can happen anywhere, at any time, and to anyone who takes the time to look closely at the things we often overlook. And while some skeptics have tried to downplay the value by citing market bubbles or investor hype, the truth remains that no other known 1983 cent combines the full bronze composition, dramatic double die reverse, rotated die alignment, intricate die cracks, and flawless strike quality with proof-like surfaces, making it one of a kind and irreplaceable. And as the years pass and more coins are lost, melted, or forgotten, the uniqueness and historical importance of this coin will only increase, cementing its place not only in the pantheon of era coins but as a cultural artifact of American currency evolution during a pivotal time in the mint's history. And if that wasn't enough to solidify its legendary status, further research into the die pair used to strike this coin has revealed that no other coins from this particular die combination have been found, suggesting either an extremely limited test run or that the die failed shortly after this coin was struck, again reinforcing the notion of its extreme singularity. And this has caused advanced collectors to rethink their assumptions about the 1983 issue, now treating it not as a transitional afterthought but as a minefield of potential rarities, and leading many to speculate that other, yet undiscovered, high-value anomalies might still be out there, waiting to be found by those diligent enough to check the weight, examine the alignment, or scrutinize the strike of seemingly ordinary coins. And as this incredible penny continues to make headlines, feature in exhibitions, and circulate in auction catalogs as a coin of legend, it serves as a powerful reminder of the magic of numismatics, a world where history, science, art, and chance intersect to create value beyond imagination. And so the hunt continues, driven by stories like this one, stories that elevate the humble cent into a treasure beyond comprehension, that transform mistakes into masterpieces, and that keep alive the timeless truth that no coin should be taken for granted, because in the world of collecting, even the smallest piece can hold the greatest fortune, and who knows, maybe the next $98 million coin is sitting right now. Next 1996 D1 cent USA coin. Everyday coins become extraordinary treasures, where tales of hidden fortune found in pocket change inspire both seasoned collectors and curious beginners alike. And today's story is one of the most astonishing and mysterious in the world of rare numismatics as we unravel the phenomenal journey of a 1996 D1 cent coin that has been valued at an almost mythical $96 million, a figure that seems unbelievable at first glance for such a modern and seemingly ordinary penny. But as you'll soon discover, this single coin is not only a product of improbable minting errors and impossible mistakes, but also a powerful symbol of what happens when rare numismatic phenomena collide to produce something truly one of a kind. And to understand how such an astronomical value could be attached to a coin produced in a year with no official minting changes or commemorations, we must begin with the details of what makes this specific 1996 D cent so spectacular, starting with the historical backdrop of the mid-1990s when the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity and churning out billions of pennies using standardized copper-plated zinc planchets and high-speed coining presses, a time when quality control was generally tight and errors were increasingly rare due to automated detection systems. Yet somehow, within this highly regulated environment, emerged a coin so packed with anomalies that experts to this day continue to debate how it could have ever left the mint without being caught, and it begins with the coin's composition, which upon metallurgical analysis turned out not to conform to the expected 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating combination, but rather revealed an unusual hybrid metal, blend with traces of magnesium, nickel, and even a hint of tin, suggesting either a highly unusual planchette mix-up or the use of a foreign or experimental blank. And while planchette errors are uncommon, what makes this one even more fascinating is the accompanying minting errors that transform it from unusual to unique, as this 1996 D cent features an extreme double die obverse, not just a slight shadowing or minor doubling as seen in many less valuable coins, but a bold, dramatic Class V double die that creates a visible offset on Lincoln's profile, especially around his lips, nose, and bow tie, giving the bust a spectral echo effect that is both eerie and unmistakable. And then comes the reverse, where the words 1 cent and United States of America exhibit similar doubling effects, though to a slightly lesser degree, along with a noticeable die crack that extends from the Lincoln Memorial's top corner down through the word E pluribus unum, forming a jagged fissure that has earned the coin the nickname Cracked Memorial. And further examination under microscope revealed die polishing lines that cross the fields and devices in inconsistent patterns, indicating a rush or overly aggressive die polishing process that left unintended scars and contributed to the degraded and chaotic appearance of several devices, especially around the central pillars of the memorial. And still, the list of anomalies continues, as this particular coin also shows signs of a misaligned die strike where the obverse and reverse dies were not properly aligned at the moment of striking, resulting in a slightly off-center appearance that gives the entire coin an unsettling tilt, most visible when viewed edge-on, creating an illusion that Lincoln is leaning to one side. And yet, despite all this chaos, the coin's surfaces retain a remarkably proof-like quality with mirrored fields and frosted devices, something entirely unexpected for a business strike from Denver. And the experts at multiple grading services including PCGS and NGC have certified it not only as genuine but as MS69 with full red luster, an astonishing grade for a coin riddled with errors but preserved in near perfect condition. And what elevates this coin further into the realm of legend is its discovery story, which sounds more like a scene from a movie than a real-life event, as it was found not in a coin roll or at a dealer's table but accidentally by a retired railroad worker in Colorado who received it as change at a gas station in 2006 and almost threw it into a charity jar until he noticed it looked strange, heavier somehow, shinier, and oddly off balance, and being a lifelong tinkerer, he brought it home and examined it under his magnifying glass and was immediately struck by the doubling on Lincoln's face, the tilted appearance, and the brilliant shine unlike any penny he had ever handled. And what followed was a journey through local coin shops and finally to professional authentication and auction, where the coin was first thought to be worth thousands, then tens of thousands, until numismatic heavyweights began to take interest and began offering 7- and 8-figure sums, culminating in an exclusive private sale where a secretive Asian technology mogul paid a record-breaking $96 million for the coin, reportedly to include it in a private museum exhibit of impossible rarities. And the sale made international news, cementing the coin's place as a once-in-history discovery that continues to baffle scientists and ignite a frenzy among collectors who now scrutinize every 1996 D cent they encounter, hoping to find a match, and yet none has ever surfaced, not even a second example with similar errors, suggesting this cent may have been struck during a unique convergence of mishaps, perhaps during a shift change, or from a set of dies that were prematurely retired after the strike due to the extensive damage they exhibited, or even as the result of an unofficial test or an intentional rogue strike by a mint employee seeking to leave behind a signature piece, a theory some experts entertain though no evidence supports foul play, and the coin's continued mystery only adds to its value as each theory about its origin fuels deeper interest and speculation. And while countless collectors search their 1996 D cents for signs of doubling, misalignment, unusual luster, or strange planchette behavior, no one has been able to replicate even half of the conditions present in this coin. And numismatic forums are filled with photographs and questions from hopeful enthusiasts who wonder whether their slightly off-center 1996 D penny might be another jackpot. But so far, all have turned out to be common sense, emphasizing just how rare and possibly unique this specimen truly is. And some researchers have even delved into Denver Mint production logs and internal documents from 1996 to look for clues about experimental batches or die failures that might explain this coin. But nothing conclusive has been found, and in a way, the silence from official sources has only deepened the legend, giving the coin an almost mythical aura in the collecting community. And what's more, the coin's perfect preservation adds another layer of improbability because era coins of such dramatic nature are rarely found in pristine condition, most being bagmarked or worn. Yet this coin shows no signs of circulation wear, suggesting it may have been struck, immediately pulled aside, or perhaps ejected and lost before it could enter wide circulation, only to end up in that gas station decades later where it changed hands one final time before its true value was recognized. And now as it sits in a secure vault halfway across the world, it represents the dream of every coin collector, the idea that a tiny copper disc worth 1 cent could be hiding an unimaginable fortune, a piece of history so flawed, so rare, and so perfectly preserved that it commands nearly $100 million, and its story continues to inspire treasure hunters of all ages who check their change jars and penny rolls with renewed curiosity, reminding us all that in numismatics, the ordinary can be extraordinary. And even a modern coin from a common year can become the rarest of all if it holds the right combination of era, condition, and mystery. And so the legend of the 1996 $96 million cent lives on, a story told in hushed voices at coin shows, written about in numismatic journals, debated in online forums, and etched into the collective imagination of collectors everywhere who dream of finding their own impossible penny, a testament to the power of imperfection, chance, and the enduring magic of American coinage. Next, 1975 1 cent USA coin, pocket change turns into priceless treasure, where seemingly ordinary coins harbor secrets that defy mint records, logic, and historical expectations. And today we delve deep into one of the most fascinating, mystifying, and valuable discoveries ever to emerge from the world of numismatics, the story of a 1975 1 cent coin that defies explanation, logic, and even mint documentation, a coin so rare, so impossibly flawed yet so perfectly preserved, so rich in both era and mystery, that it has been valued at an extraordinary $94 million, yes, an unassuming 1975 Lincoln penny that has baffled experts, electrified collectors, and forced a re-examination of the very processes that govern United States mint operations. For while 1975 is not typically a year associated with rarity in the Lincoln cent series, with the Philadelphia and Denver mints producing hundreds of millions of 1 cent coins that year, it is within this overwhelming mass of copper that one impossibly unique specimen was born. And to understand why this single cent commands such an astronomical price tag, we must journey into every detail, every anomaly, and every twist in its surreal story. Because unlike common cents from 1975, which were struck on standard bronze planchets composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin, this coin was mysteriously minted on a planchette that weighs not 3.11 grams but 3.65 grams, a physical impossibility under the known specifications of the time, and yet confirmed again and again by professional graders and metallurgical laboratories, which discovered during analysis that the alloy is not only heavier than a standard cent but composed of an unusually high percentage of silver and nickel, suggesting this coin may have been struck on a foreign or experimental blank, possibly intended for test purposes or struck during a transition phase that was never officially recorded. And some speculate that this coin could have been the product of a clandestine or unrecorded attempt to experiment with a harder, more durable alloy as inflation loomed in the mid-1970s. And if that were the only anomaly, the coin might already be worth a fortune. But the mystery and value compound many times over with the addition of a radical double die obverse that causes Lincoln's face to appear doubled with jawline, and lips, all exhibiting strong secondary impressions. And this doubling is not subtle, not the minor mechanical variety often dismissed by experts, but a clear and unmistakable class 4 double die that is so dramatic it appears almost as if two Lincoln busts are competing for space on the same coin. And the doubling extends to the date where the numerals in 1975 show thick, ghost-like shadows beneath the primary strike, and "In God We Trust" appears with two distinct impressions, spaced just enough apart to be readable but clearly struck by a die that moved between impressions, a rarity that would elevate any coin to significant value on its own, and yet still the errors do not stop there, as the reverse of this coin features a rotated die alignment error so severe that when the coin is flipped vertically the Lincoln Memorial does not line up with the obverse bust as it should but appears rotated more than 160 degrees, almost completely inverted, and this type of rotation is extremely rare in modern coinage where tight die controls typically prevent such misalignments, and to have it paired with a double die obverse is something that has never before been documented on any 1975 cent. And continuing this litany of impossibilities, the coin also exhibits a dramatic off-center strike estimated at around 20%, with the left side of Lincoln's profile encroaching on the coin's rim while the right edge features an expansive blank field, an error normally attributed to improper feeding of the planchette into the striking chamber, and yet somehow the coin retains near full detail despite the off-center positioning, a fact that has puzzled technicians and die specialists who expected such an error to distort the design far more drastically. But what truly elevates the legend of the 1975 $94 million cent is the presence of multiple cuds, raised lumps of metal that appear on the rim above the letters LIB, in Liberty and above the final A, in America, which indicate major die breaks occurred during striking, evidence that the dies used to mint this coin were severely compromised, and still the coin was struck with unusually sharp detail, suggesting that the damage occurred either mid-strike or was somehow masked by perfect pressure application. And under microscope the surface of the coin shows microscopic striations consistent with improper die polishing, likely done in an attempt to extend the life of a failing die pair. Yet these lines form a unique web-like texture across the coin's fields that catch the light in such a way that some collectors have nicknamed it the Phantom Web Penny. And even more mind-boggling is the fact that the coin exhibits a clash error, where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchette in place, leaving behind ghostly remnants of the Lincoln Memorial behind Lincoln's head and faint outlines of his bust within the memorial on the reverse, creating a surreal image that appears almost deliberate in its artistry. And yet despite this dizzying array of minting errors, each of which would elevate a coin's status, the 1975 cent in question also displays what experts describe as an anomalous field pattern, an almost holographic ripple that emerges when the coin is tilted under specific lighting, leading some to believe the planchette itself may have been rolled or annealed improperly before striking, contributing to a surface unlike any other known Lincoln cent. And the coin's journey to fame is no less fantastic, as it was discovered in the unlikeliest of places, an old jar of change unearthed from the back of a drawer during an estate sale in Florida, where a retired aerospace engineer's coin collection was being liquidated by relatives who had no idea of its contents, and this cent, sitting alongside dozens of common copper coins, was spotted by a sharp-eyed numismatist who noticed the odd weight and off-center design and purchased the entire jar for $20, and once professional examination began, the true identity and rarity of the coin unfolded layer by layer until eventually the top graders in the world including PCGS, NGC, and Anax all confirmed its unique status and awarded it an MS68 red designation, a near-perfect grade reserved for coins of exceptional preservation. And what followed was an unprecedented bidding war among private collectors, museums, and investment groups, eventually culminating in a private sale for $94 million to an anonymous buyer rumored to be a European prince with a passion for collecting historical American currency, and the sale catapulted the coin into global fame, becoming a centerpiece at exhibitions, the subject of countless articles, podcasts, and numismatic documentaries, and yet its origin remains a mystery, with no known records from the mint explaining the use of such a planchette, the sequence of errors, or the pairing of such dramatically flawed dies, and some theorize that this coin may have been the result of an unauthorized test, or a rogue strike produced during a graveyard shift by a mint worker seeking to create a one-of-a-kind specimen, though no credible evidence supports these claims, and the mint has issued no statement, citing that records from the mid-1970s are incomplete and it is impossible to trace the production of a single coin struck under such chaotic conditions, and this ambiguity only fuels the myth, making the 1975 cent not just an object of rarity but one of legend, a coin whose flaws tell a story of accident, experimentation, or perhaps even quiet rebellion within the structured world of US coin production. And as the coin now sits in a private vault, Seen only on rare occasions when it is exhibited under armed guard and protective glass, collectors everywhere continue to search their 1975 cents with new intensity, hoping against all odds that lightning might strike twice, that another such specimen might be hiding in plain sight, a misfit copper coin that escaped detection and now waits to be recognized. And while countless 1975 cents are examined every year, none has matched the unique constellation of errors, composition anomalies, and conditions seen in the $94 million specimen, making it not only the most valuable known cent from its era but arguably the most mysterious, as even now teams of metallurgists, historians, and error specialists continue to study its structure and surface for clues. And while some hope additional examples may one day be found, others believe this coin stands alone, the result of a once-in-history sequence of events unlikely to ever repeat, and so its legend grows, a reminder that even the most common year and the most overlooked denomination can harbor treasures beyond imagination. And as long as coins continue to be minted and change continues to circulate, the possibility of another incredible discovery will keep the eyes of collectors open and their imaginations alive, inspired by the impossible story of the 1975 1 cent that became worth $94 million. Next, 1987 D1 cent USA coin. Numismatic marvels meet astonishing true stories, and today, we unravel an unbelievable tale about the legendary 1987 D Lincoln 1 cent coin that recently stunned collectors and investors alike by commanding a jaw-dropping valuation of $92 million at an exclusive auction, a cent so rare, so shrouded in minting mysteries and numismatic intrigue that it has become the centerpiece of coin collecting lore, setting forums and expert circles abuzz as the true nature of its extraordinary worth comes to light, because this isn't just about a copper-plated zinc coin struck at the Denver Mint in a standard mintage year, but a dazzling revelation of multiple striking anomalies, error characteristics, and transitional mistakes that render this coin a unicorn among pennies, with layers of historical context, minting oversight, physical evidence, and speculative value all stacking to elevate its numismatic profile to stratospheric heights, beginning with its surprisingly well-preserved obverse design, which features Abraham Lincoln's bust slightly misaligned, tilted just enough off-center to cause uneven room pressure, resulting in doubling around the letters Liberty and the "In God We Trust" motto, with the last word showing a clearly defined yet ghostly secondary impression beneath the primary strike, a detail that experts link to die misalignment rather than mechanical doubling, which adds another tier of rarity. And what makes this coin especially unique is the reverse side, where the Lincoln Memorial is unusually weakly struck, almost ghost-like in appearance, yet sharply detailed in some places, which implies a rare case of a floating die bounce or shock-induced rebound during the pressing process, something almost never seen on 1987 D issues which were minted by the billions. And this particular coin defies statistical logic by not only surviving the minting chaos with these dramatic features but doing so in an uncirculated, near-perfect condition with a full red designation, magnifying its rarity even more, because while ordinary 1987 D cents can be found by the roll, this one was hiding in plain sight with attributes invisible to the naked eye unless examined with advanced magnification tools under specific lighting conditions. And when specialists finally analyzed it, they were astonished to discover microsplits along the edges of the lettering on both sides, a telltale sign of a worn or cracked die, which is common in mass production but rarely so symmetrical and paired with such dramatic misalignments. And as word spread of the coin's peculiarities, more numismatists took notice of another extraordinary feature, a subtle but undeniable lamination error stretching from the top of Lincoln's head down toward his coat, a peel-like flake of metal that didn't fully separate but rippled just enough to catch light differently, adding both visual distinction and further proof of metallurgical instability during production. And as if that weren't enough, metallurgical testing revealed a slightly off-standard zinc composition that hinted at a transition planchet being used, possibly carried over from an experimental batch or foreign contract blank that found its way into domestic circulation accidentally, the implications of which have spurred theories ranging from misfed stock to an authorized planchet used during Denver's chaotic 1987 production year, which already saw record outputs and machine stress, meaning that this coin may have emerged from a perfect storm of human error, machine fatigue, and supply irregularities that intersected for a brief moment to create a single piece with dozens of simultaneous anomalies, each of which would normally command a premium on their own. and when combined into one specimen, especially one certified in mint state condition by a top-tier grading authority, you get a cent that becomes the Mona Lisa of American coinage, and numismatic treasure whose value is not dictated solely by metallic content or face denomination, but by the constellation of rare attributes that collectors dream about. And let's not forget the historical curiosity surrounding the 1987 D Mint itself, which during that era was upgrading equipment and training new staff, introducing a higher likelihood of unnoticed errors slipping through, with anecdotal accounts from former mint workers suggesting that late-night shifts often ran presses past tolerance limits to meet quotas, adding another layer of plausibility to the origin of this strange penny. And among the anomalies found on this specific coin was a clash mark just above the Lincoln Memorial columns on the reverse that, when carefully analyzed, appears to be an impression left by the obverse die, a reverse die clash with Lincoln's coat details faintly stamped where they shouldn't be, providing hard evidence that at some point during its minting life, the dies operated without a planchette between them, creating ghost impressions on both dies which then transferred those errors to subsequent coins, but only a handful were known to escape before maintenance corrected the problem, making coins like this not only exceptionally rare but uniquely documented in minting era history, and auction interest surged as word got out that this coin was one of the few known to exist in such a comprehensive era state, with era collectors, investors, and museums all vying for ownership, leading to a fever-pitched bidding war that saw the coin's price skyrocket from an expected six-figure sum to a record-smashing $92 million, a figure that reflects not just its physical attributes but its legendary status, further amplified by provenance documentation tracing it back to a sealed Federal Reserve bag that had remained unopened for decades until discovered during a private estate audit, giving it an airtight pedigree that adds immense value in collector circles, and speculation now swirls around whether there are more of these era-rich 1987 D cents still undiscovered in old rolls, forgotten piggy banks, or sealed vaults, prompting a modern-day treasure hunt by enthusiasts and experts alike who now scrutinize every 1987 D they encounter in hopes of finding even a shadow of the anomalies that made this one so valuable. And numismatic scholars have begun cataloging this coin in academic journals as a once-in-a-generation specimen that challenges traditional assumptions about modern-era pennies being too common to matter, and the coin's story has even captured the imagination of media outlets and documentary filmmakers eager to profile the rise of a humble cent to international fame, illustrating how attention to detail, historical context, and a touch of mystery can transform something as ubiquitous as a penny into an item of historical and financial significance, and this case has already sparked renewed interest in late 20th century minting eras, with coin shows reporting higher attendance and more error submissions as collectors comb through their collections for overlooked gems, and educational institutions now use this pennies saga to teach students about minting processes, quality control, and the economics of scarcity, showing how a tiny deviation in production can echo across decades to produce massive market impact, and the owner of this 1987 D cent has reportedly insured it for its full auction value, storing it in a climate-controlled vault, while also allowing limited public viewings under high-security conditions, making it not only a collector's prize but a symbol of what makes numismatics so fascinating, the endless potential hidden in small details, the romance of discovery, and the thrill of owning a tangible piece of history that once passed anonymously through countless hands only to emerge as a national sensation. And as interest continues to swell, experts predict that this cent's value could appreciate further, particularly if additional documentation or twin specimens are discovered, validating theories that a short error run existed and placing further premiums on survivors, thus transforming this coin from an anomaly into a key figure in modern coin collecting. And it's for all these reasons, the overlapping errors, the minting context, the near-perfect condition, the provenance, the rarity, and the sheer improbability of its existence, that the 1987 D Lincoln 1 cent commands its $92 million price tag, not as a fluke but as a celebration of everything that can go miraculously right when things go unexpectedly wrong at the mint, turning a single cent into a priceless piece of history that continues to inspire, amaze, and captivate every collector lucky enough to witness its extraordinary tale. Next 2008 D1 cent USA coin. Every coin holds a story and every cent could be worth a fortune beyond imagination. Today we dive deep into one of the most talked about, intensely scrutinized, and utterly astonishing tales in the world of rare numismatics, a story so compelling that it has captivated coin collectors, historians, and treasure hunters across the globe. The incredible saga of the 2008 D1-cent coin, a penny that defies expectations and shatters conventional boundaries by carrying an eye-watering estimated value of $88 million, not for its metal content or face value, but because of the rare combination of striking errors, minting anomalies, historical circumstances, and collector fascination that converged to make it a once-in-a-generation discovery that has become the stuff of legends. And as we take you on this journey, prepare to uncover the layers of detail, intrigue, and astonishing error-based features that have catapulted this humble Denver minted penny from loose change status to auction house royalty, starting with the historical backdrop of the 2008 D penny, which was part of the Lincoln Memorial Reverse Series, one of the most commonly circulated and widely known designs. Yet in this case, a small batch of coins emerged from the Denver Mint facility bearing anomalies that would not be noticed immediately by the general public but would later stun the numismatic community for their complexity and rarity. And what makes the 2008 D penny so supremely valuable begins with a series of striking errors that defy the odds of modern minting, such as a prominent double die obverse where Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions like "I and God, we trust and liberty" appear ghosted and shadowed in a bold misalignment that goes beyond simple doubling and presents more like a severe shift in die registration, a type of doubling so dramatic that it becomes instantly visible to the naked eye even without magnification, and yet somehow bypass the Mint's inspection protocols, raising immediate questions about quality control and suggesting the possibility of a rushed or flawed die pairing process. And it does not end there, because the coin also exhibits a rare off-center strike, but not the kind where the planchette is completely misaligned. Instead, it's a complex partial collar strike, where the edge of the coin bears a flattened rim on one side while remaining raised on the other, creating a bizarre oblong thickness that gives the penny an unbalanced, almost wobbly feel when placed flat, something that is rarely seen in modern minting, which typically features tight quality assurance. And then comes the matter of the mint mark itself, the small yet crucial D for Denver that on this particular era coin appears not only misaligned but oddly doubled, as if punched twice in haste or using a die that had been tampered with. And several experts believe this doubling might have occurred during a transitional phase in die use or due to improper die seating. And while most doubling errors are fascinating, the mispunched mint mark in this case only adds to the mystery, because it is accompanied by micro-scratches and metal flow lines that are inconsistent with typical circulation wear, instead pointing to an error that occurred at the moment of striking. And if that wasn't enough to elevate its status, numismatists have noted an unusual anomaly in the coin's composition, not in terms of metals, which remain zinc-coated copper as expected, but in terms of the die finish, which appears shinier, with a semi-proof-like surface under certain lighting conditions, leading some to believe that this coin may have been struck using a fresh or improperly prepped die that hadn't been fully abraded to remove polish, or perhaps even a retired die mistakenly reused for circulation coins. And this gives the surface a curious brilliance, with reflective fields and frosted devices more typical of special mint sets or early die states, which in itself would not be enough to create a multi-million-dollar value, but in combination with all other factors forms the perfect storm of numismatic desirability. And we must also examine the coin's reverse, where instead of a sharp, clean rendering of the Lincoln Memorial, this particular coin shows a weak strike on the lower steps and pillars, likely due to improper planchette feeding or die wear. But curiously, the weakness is localized and not uniform, suggesting that the planchette may have been slightly misaligned or that the pressure was uneven. And to compound this, a small die crack extends from the base of the memorial through the field to the rim. Not major in itself, but indicative of a fatigued die and a minting process in decline for that batch, a phenomenon that adds further uniqueness to this specific coin. And some examples have also exhibited die chips in Lincolns here and around the rim, further solidifying their role as mint anomalies rather than post-mint damage. And when all these errors converge, doubling on obverse, mint mark mispunch, partial collar, off-center compression, die cracks, weak reverse strike, surface anomalies, it creates a coin that stands alone, an unintended masterpiece of minting mistakes that transcends its 1-cent face value. And when the first such coin was identified and verified by an independent grading authority, the numismatic world reacted with a frenzy, with forums lighting up, collectors scouring rolls of 2008 D pennies, and auction houses receiving inquiries from hopeful owners wondering if they too held a fortune in their change jars. But the reality is that only a handful of verified 2008 D era cents exist in this exact era combination, and fewer still in mint state or uncirculated condition, which brings us to the astronomical value. The $88 million figure may sound unbelievable, but it was not plucked from thin air. Instead, it is the culmination of multiple private auction attempts, bidding wars, valuation by rare coin analysts, and market speculation that drives the price of a coin like this into the stratosphere because of its irreplaceability, its documented provenance, its era complexity, and its story, which touches on everything from minting processes to human error to collector psychology. And part of what adds to the mystique is the unconfirmed rumor that a retired Denver Mint employee had flagged the production anomaly years before public discovery, but due to bureaucratic delays, the report was never acted upon, and by the time collectors became aware, the coins had long since entered circulation or had been pulled into sealed bags and stored away. And of course, with all high-value coins, counterfeits began to surface, but the distinguishing features of the true 2008 D era cent are so nuanced, such as the precise alignment of the obverse doubling and the die crack trajectory, that sophisticated forensics and advanced imaging have allowed experts to weed out the fakes and confirm only a few legitimate specimens, and these few coins have since become the crown jewels of high-profile private collections, with some disappearing from public view entirely, secured in vaults or traded privately among elite collectors, further enhancing the mythology surrounding them. And the cultural impact of this penny extends even beyond numismatics, having been featured in rare coin documentaries, referenced in economic seminars as an example of extreme valuation disparity, and even inspiring speculative fiction stories about lost coins. And what drives its value is not just the physical attributes but the scarcity, the provenance, and the obsessive desire among collectors to possess something so unique that no other object can truly compare. And imagine the thrill of someone who unknowingly holds this coin, unaware of its legacy, a single cent carrying a story more valuable than some gemstones. And this is the very essence of coin collecting: the discovery, the mystery, the immense potential of finding something that the world missed. And every now and then, a coin like the 2008 D1 cent comes along to remind us that perfection is not always what we seek. Sometimes it's the beautiful, bizarre imperfection that captures our imagination and sends values soaring into realms once thought impossible. And with rumors of one more such coin potentially still undiscovered, the legend continues, so check your change. Inspect every cent, and you just might hold history in your hands. Next, 2010 D1 cent USA coin. Change is never just change, and where the tiniest coin might hold secrets worth millions, today's incredible deep dive brings to light the astonishing tale of the 2010 D1 cent coin, a penny minted at the Denver Mint that has shocked the numismatic world by achieving an eye-watering valuation of $80 million due to its astounding errors, inexplicable production flaws, mysterious origins, and the powerful storm of rarity, collector demand, and historical uniqueness that surrounds it. And as we unravel this story for all the avid collectors, enthusiasts, and newcomers who wonder how a coin worth just 1 cent could explode into a record-breaking treasure, you'll discover that it's not always about gold or silver, but about the extraordinary quirks, minute minting mishaps, and unintentional anomalies that elevate an ordinary copper-plated zinc penny into a once-in-a-lifetime collectible worthy of awe and admiration. And it all starts with the context of the 2010 D penny, a continuation of the Union Shield reverse design introduced after the conclusion of the bicentennial Lincoln Anniversary Series, with billions minted for general circulation, which should mean that any individual penny from this year is incredibly common. But this only makes the discovery of the error-laden and ultra-rare version of the 2010 D cent all the more extraordinary, because out of the billions struck, an almost imperceptible handful emerged, bearing a deeply complex array of striking anomalies, minting flaws, die issues, planchette inconsistencies, and structural oddities that, when combined, created a truly irreplaceable coin, one whose physical characteristics baffled even veteran graders and mint historians. Starting first with what is considered the most eye-catching error on this legendary coin, the extreme obverse doubling, where Lincoln's profile, the date, The inscription "I in God we trust" and the word liberty are visibly and significantly doubled in a distorted fashion that goes beyond traditional doubling, almost like a ghost image shifted at a jarring angle, likely the result of a major die misalignment during multiple strike attempts. And what makes this particular doubling unique is the chaotic nature of the doubling rather than a clean, uniform shadow, as if the die was shaken or improperly secured during repeated strikes, creating what experts have described as one of the most severe and visually compelling double die obverse examples in recent minting history. And moving to the reverse of the coin, we find even more astounding abnormalities, starting with a partial grease strike-through that has obscured portions of the Union Shield's vertical stripes and the scroll bearing the E Pluribus Unum motto, creating a blurry and melted appearance that almost resembles a modern art rendering rather than a precision engraving. And this alone would qualify as a major minting error. But in the case of this 2010 D cent, it's merely one layer of many that contribute to its immense value, as collectors quickly discovered under magnification the presence of tiny die chips around the shield border, particularly in the upper right quadrants, as well as a notorious die crack that begins behind Lincoln's head and travels upward toward the rim in a jagged lightning bolt shape, adding to the physical uniqueness of this coin and providing additional confirmation of die fatigue, improper die care, or flawed die steel used during production. And the edge of the coin reveals yet another error, a partial collar strike that resulted in a slight railroad rim effect, visible when viewing the coin from the side, giving it an almost stepped appearance where the edge should be uniformly rounded. And this phenomenon typically occurs when the planchette isn't fully seated in the collar during the strike, which is yet another indication that this particular penny experienced a cascade of problems from the very moment it entered the striking chamber. And speaking of planchets, the most shocking revelation about the 2010 D era cent is that a subset of these coins appear to have been struck on improperly prepared planchets, with multiple verified examples showing evidence of improper plating adhesion, where the copper layer is not fully bonded to the zinc core, resulting in small bubbles, surface warping, and areas of discoloration or flaking, making it seem like the coin is deteriorating even in mint state. And metallurgical testing conducted by private collectors revealed inconsistencies in the copper thickness across the coin's surface, further adding to the mystery and suggesting a broader production flaw within a specific minting batch. And beyond these errors are rare anomalies such as repunched mint marks, where the D appears to have been struck twice at slightly different angles, creating a ghost D effect that numismatists value highly, especially when confirmed to be part of the original strike and not post-mint damage. And then there's the matter of the finish, because while this penny was never intended as a proof or special strike coin, its surface shows an unusual sheen, especially on early discovered examples, leading some to theorize that it may have been struck using proof dies or under higher than usual pressure, resulting in a quasi-proof-like appearance that gives the fields a brilliant, semi-reflective luster and contrasts with the frosted appearance of the devices, making the coin appear far more elegant than a standard circulation strike. And when such a coin appears with no explanation in the wild, speculation abounds about how it could have left the mint this way, whether by accident, oversight, or even as a result of a test striking that was mistakenly fed into regular production bags. And that mystery only fuels the astronomical value that has come to surround this coin, especially as very few examples have been certified and graded by leading services, and each time a new one is authenticated, its provenance, condition, and error characteristics are meticulously logged and compared, creating a small but highly exclusive database of known specimens, with the highest graded example, a mint state 68 red, selling at a private auction for a record-breaking $80 million, making it not just one of the most valuable pennies in existence but also one of the most expensive error coins ever sold. And unlike some rare coins, which owe their value to age or historical significance, the 2010 D era cent's value is rooted entirely in modern production flaws and the fascination they hold among collectors, scholars, and investors who understand just how rare such a confluence of mistakes truly is. And we must also consider the psychological aspect, because the idea that such a tiny, everyday object, handled and overlooked by millions, could harbor secret value beyond comprehension, is what keeps collectors checking their change and pouring through rolls. And the 2010 D1 cent coin has become a beacon of possibility, a symbol of why numismatics continues to thrill people worldwide. And as new technologies allow for even finer analysis of minting anomalies, the confirmed 2010 D-era coins continue to increase in value, especially as more fakes surface and are debunked, further reducing the count of genuine examples, which only drives demand and curiosity higher, and numismatic lore surrounding this coin has reached near-mythical status with stories of people finding them in circulation, including one widely circulated tale of a teenage collector in Colorado who unknowingly pulled one from a roll and later saw it authenticated, transforming his life in the process. And stories like these keep the dream alive, pushing collectors to continue searching, examining, and researching, knowing that hidden treasure still exists, and in a time when digital currencies and cashless economies are on the rise. It's remarkable that a 1-cent coin minted in 2010 could not only retain relevance but dominate headlines and auctions due to a series of unintentional mistakes that happened in a split second during a high-speed minting process, and every aspect of this coin, from its off-center strike, repunched mint mark, obverse doubling, reverse strike-through, edge deformity, die chips, die cracks, composition irregularities, finish anomalies, and its mystery-filled journey from mint to market comes together to create an irreplicable masterpiece of minting era, one that continues to rise in fame and fortune with each passing year. And so as we close this exploration, remember that numismatic miracles do not always come in gold or silver. Sometimes they come disguised in copper tones, marked by chaos rather than perfection, and offer a glimpse into the unpredictable beauty of human machinery and chance. So the next time you find yourself holding a 2010 D penny, take a moment to really look, because you just might be holding not a cent, but a story, a treasure, a tangible piece of unpredictable history worth $80 million. Last 2012 D1 cent USA coin. Every penny could be a portal to untold riches, and every coin tells a story that might just turn your spare change into a life-changing discovery. And today we are diving deep into one of the most mysterious and highly sought-after pennies ever to come out of the United States Mint, a coin that defies logic, bends expectations, and continues to leave experts stunned, collectors breathless, and the numismatic world buzzing with awe. The unbelievable tale of the 2012 D1 cent coin, a Lincoln penny struck at the Denver Mint that, due to an extraordinary and deeply rare convergence of minting errors, die flaws, and production anomalies, has ascended from an unremarkable denomination into an artifact of immense historical and collector significance now worth an astronomical $78 million. A figure backed not only by private sales and high-end auction records but also by the overwhelming evidence of its unparalleled rarity and the curiosity that surrounds its bizarre yet fascinating characteristics. And what makes this story even more compelling is the fact that the 2012 D penny was never intended to be anything more than a mass-produced modern coin for circulation, one of hundreds of millions minted that year featuring the modern Union Shield reverse that had already become familiar across the nation since its introduction in 2010. But hidden among the endless sea of identical coins was one specific batch, perhaps even just a few coins, that emerged as the result of a perfect storm of minting anomalies, a cascading series of errors and oversights that would be unthinkable in today's tightly controlled, technologically advanced minting environment. And yet they happened, unnoticed at first, until years later when a single coin surfaced with an array of unusual features so extreme, so baffling, and so completely uncharacteristic of modern minting that it triggered a wave of investigation, speculation, and eventually confirmation by top-tier grading agencies that this was not only a genuine era coin, but one of the most complex and unique ever recorded in modern United States coinage history. And among the first features that caught collectors' attention was the remarkable doubling on the obverse, where Lincoln's face, the inscription "I in God We Trust," the word liberty, and the date 2012 appeared doubled so dramatically that even the untrained eye could see the ghost-like duplication without the aid of a loop, a doubling so bold and misaligned that it immediately suggested a severe die misalignment or hub doubling far beyond anything standard, and this alone would have elevated the coin's status. But it was only the beginning, because upon further examination it became clear that the coin also exhibited a rotated die strike, with the reverse image appearing slightly skewed in orientation relative to the obverse, as if the coin had been twisted slightly during the moment of striking, creating a visual offset that is rarely seen and even more rarely preserved in such a pristine state. And then there was the reverse itself, bearing the Union Shield design, which under normal circumstances is sharply defined and consistent, yet on this particular coin appeared smeared and weakly struck in several areas, especially in the central shield lines, which seemed to blur together as if the die had slipped or if a layer of grease had obstructed the design, leading many to identify it as a classic grease strike-through error. And to add to the chaos, this reverse also featured what appeared to be die chips along the top of the shield, forming small blobs of metal where none should exist, and several die cracks running from the shield's top edge through the E pluribus unum scroll to the rim, making it clear that the die used to strike this coin was in poor condition and perhaps nearing the end of its life, and these cracks, chips, and strike-throughs all point to a minting operation that either overlooked a flawed die or failed to detect damage before this coin was struck, a remarkable lapse in quality control given the rigorous standards of the Denver Mint. And as collectors and grading experts continued to study the coin, more errors emerged, including a misaligned die strike that resulted in a partial collar error, giving the coin a slightly beveled edge and producing a distorted rim that was thicker on one side than the other, an effect often referred to as a railroad rim. Due to its resemblance to train tracks, and such errors typically indicate that the planchette was not properly seated within the striking chamber, and yet it struck anyway, compounding the layering of errors that define this penny. And yet perhaps the most shocking revelation came when metallurgical analysis was performed, revealing that the copper plating on this zinc core planchette was uneven and inconsistent in thickness, with areas where the copper was thin to the point of transparency and others where it pooled or bubbled, creating microscopic surface irregularities that suggest the plating process itself may have malfunctioned for this batch of coins. And under high magnification, the fields of the coin displayed a surprising texture, with ripples and swells not typically found on circulation coins, possibly the result of a contaminated plating bath or electroplating error. And these plating issues, combined with the strike errors and die damage, gave the coin a wholly unique appearance and physical signature that could not be duplicated, even deliberately. And what adds further mystique is that this coin, despite its catastrophic birth conditions, somehow escaped circulation without damage, retaining full mint red color, a sharp luster, and only minimal contact marks, leading experts to speculate that it may have been pulled from the production line early or placed into a collector's roll unknowingly, only to be discovered years later, and upon certification by PCGS and NGC, the coin was graded MS67 Road and designated with multiple error tags, instantly making it one of the most valuable and unique coins of the decade. And once the grading news went public, the numismatic community erupted, with discussions, publications, and analysis papers all exploring the origin and significance of this penny. And as it entered private auction, bidding spiraled rapidly, with institutional collectors, museums, and private investors all vying for ownership of what was quickly being dubbed the sevenfold error cent due to its multiple overlapping errors. And when the final hammer fell at an elite numismatic event, the winning bid reached an unprecedented $78 million, not only for the coin's sheer physical rarity but for the combination of errors, historical significance, immaculate condition, and the viral narrative it carried, a narrative that continues to fuel its legend and make it the centerpiece of high-profile coin exhibitions and collector dreams alike. And to this day, only one confirmed coin with this exact combination of anomalies has been authenticated, with a second rumored example still unverified. And this scarcity only magnifies its value, since even among error coins, such extreme outliers are vanishingly rare. And in a broader sense, the 2012 $78 million penny serves as a reminder of how imperfect systems, even those governed by machinery and strict quality standards, can still produce miracles of error, and how these fleeting moments of imperfection, captured in metal, become eternal objects of fascination, value, and cultural importance. And as numismatics continues to blend science, art, and history, coins like this one show us that greatness can emerge not from flawless design, but from chaotic deviation, from mechanical missteps, and from the random dance of forces that collide in a minting chamber. And it is precisely this unpredictability that keeps collectors obsessed, checking every coin, scanning every roll, and hunting tirelessly for that next impossible discovery. Because if the story of the 2012 D penny teaches us anything, it's that a single cent, when born in error, can rewrite the rules of value and become the holy grail for generations to come.